This is how this billionaire couple owns all the water supply. It's private.
While 40 million Californians suffer through unprecedented drought, one billionaire couple owns a massive share of the state's water system, seized in a series of secretive meetings 2 decades.
See, that's what it is. I even thought, like, when I was flying drones, how could I buy the airspace? Like, I was like, so if I video this airspace, I own this. How do I get the building that I'm videoing to sign some contract to say that I'm the only one to video this building? You know what I mean? So it's, people are thinking, once you get out of survival mode, you can think about the bigger picture. And then the picture just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you have money and power and money and power and strategy. And you have to find ways to always stay on top. But at that same time, in my mind, I was also having an ego complex where it was about power. Because once you figure these things out, you're like, how can I implement them? How can I use them?
Ago. That system was largely paid for by the very taxpayers whose water these billionaires hold hostage. Urban water systems are desperate for water, but in 2023, they'll receive just 5% of what they requested from the state.
Damn.
The Resnicks are the biggest farmers in California. As of 2007, they owned 4 San Francisco's worth of farmland. And nearly half of Americans buy at least one of their products. Their pistachios, their pomegranate juice, their mandarins, their flowers. It's all under one massive umbrella, the Wonderful Company, a privately owned company worth at least $5 billion. The majority owners, the Resnicks, are worth at least $8 billion. How were they able to take over such a large percentage of what should be a shared public resource? This is The Classroom from More Perfect Union, and today we're looking at how the Resnicks got rich.
Oh boy.
Linda is a former child actress, the daughter of Jack Harris, a successful...
You got to remember, like, the reason people are rich is because they pull a, like, social heist.
Movie distributor of the 1950s, most well known for The Blob.
Starring Steve McQueen and a cast of exciting young people.
At 19, she founded her own advertising agency.
We'll have to look that up.
Stewart was born to a middle-class New Jersey family and started his first business, a janitorial service, in grad school. He eventually acquired American Protection Services, a burglar alarm and security company. Linda approached him about marketing services for the company, and they hit it off.
Marketing is where the scams are, guys. That is where the devil is in the details.
Knowing that one day they'd work together to take over California's water. The Lovebirds became business partners. They bought Teleflora, the flower delivery company, and the Franklin Mint, purveyors of inane little tchotchkes. Linda was the marketing person, and Stewart was in charge of business. As Linda told the LA Times in 1993, "I've always said that Stewart and I together make one..."
Let me tell you something. When you figure out certain things, like, let me tell you this hilarious situation. I took all my city's Instagram names before the city could ever get them. And then I even went down and filed a legal, I took the Instagram names and the domain names. And then I went down to the city to file a business name under the name city of what city I was in. And so I legally had a business card that said city of this, and it was all legal. So once you start to find these loopholes and they work, it starts to get super addicting.
Perfect person, like little salt and pepper shakers. In the late 80s, they found their primary industry, agriculture. They got into the pistachio business. Linda said, "We've done more for the pistachio than anyone ever since it was planted in the Garden of Eden. My husband should be canonized for all the work he's done." They started branching into other products. Almonds, pomegranates, citrus,
that type of attitude right there is sickening.
Wine, and acquiring more and more land to cover it, including some very important land in Kern County, which granted them water rights in the area. As the Resnicks were building their empire, the state of California was building new water infrastructure with taxpayer money. California's natural water supply is very inconsistent. Vastly differing amounts of rainfall means the state can go from surplus, or rains, drought, and back very easily. So they build water banks to store water during surpluses to have during droughts. One important storage facility is the Kern Water Bank, started in 1988. The facility was built with hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars, which could have been a good thing.
That's the only way. Better get to work. The government wants you to work so they can keep building shit.
California would have owned the water. But there were two Californians
going on vacations, Karen ass,
thirstier than the rest, and they wanted more water. Linda and Stuart Resnick.
Now they look demented and deranged. Rich, and she's like, I run this puppet.
And they had a lot of political power. We'll get to that.
They look
in
evil
1994, state water officials, water infrastructure contractors, and
exactly.
agricultural landowners with water rights arranged a secretive meeting at a resort in Monterey Bay, California. These groups, a mix of private companies and public agencies, rewrote California's water rules without any input from voters, taxpayers, or legislators. The new rules, called the Monterey Plus Agreement or the Monterey Amendments.
Yeah, the thing about laws right now is laws are still being made. Like, everyone thinks that everything's just set in stone, like it's just 10 commandments. No. How I realized all these places, the last like couple years, I started to look in to find loopholes in places. I'm like, no one has their shit together. The system is never set, and there's puzzle pieces that are missing, and no one's looking at it because the majority of people don't think for themselves. They don't think outside of the box. It's just true. The majority of people are still sleeping.
Were devastating for working Californians, and great for agriculture billionaires. The original code included urban preference, a long-standing rule that in times of drought, the state water board would give urban areas, where people live, access to water supplies before agricultural interests.
Wow.
Monterey axed that. That means that in times of drought, the water systems for normal Californians would have to buy water from private companies because they weren't getting it.
Oh my God, how sick are you people? Really? Like, how sick are you guys? And they're just going on vacation and going out to dinners, and they're making money off of this natural resource, and they're gatekeeping it? Disturbing act. That's disturbing behavior. That's serial killer behavior it's genocide, really, when it comes down to it. It really is.
From the state. The new agreement also loosened regulations on paper water. That's water that doesn't necessarily exist anywhere but on paper. The full quantities of water that providers could have,
water that doesn't necessarily exist anywhere but on paper. The full quantities of water that providers could have but don't actually need to have. God.
They need to have. Today, 5 times as much water has been promised and sold as actually exists. And importantly,
today the state has already allocated 5.3 times more paper water than is available. See? Damn. Everything on paper isn't always real. Like, they could say that they're going to give this person this much money, and that money doesn't even exist. That's why contracts are mostly bullshit.
Meeting changed ownership of the Kern Water Bank. What once belonged to the state was transferred to a few private water contractors, one of which was Westside Mutual, a wholly owned subsidiary of Wonderful Foods. The wonderful employee who runs Westside, Bill Phillimore, is the chairman of the public organization that manages the Kern Water Bank. Boom.
What's his name? William Phillimore.
One secret meeting, and the Resnicks owned nearly 60% of an important California water resource, built with hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer money. The new ownership, combined with the rules on paper and
they must be thirsty? They're very thirsty. They're thirsty for attention, water, money, power.
That during times of drought, the Resnicks could sell Kern water back to the state water systems. They took Californian taxpayers' water and sold it back to them, both literally as the water supply and also to
and that's actually a strategy that I created in my own mind called the Genghis Khan, where you steal someone's land or their product or their business or their name or whatever, and you sell it back to them. So they'll be like, I'm rapper Jabroni5, and then all of a sudden you get everything that could be under Jabroni5, and then they're like, oh my God, this isn't here, and then you sell it back to them, you know? Yep, the Genghis Khan right there. That's what he did. They rode on horseback. They took over these places. They kidnapped people. They blackmailed these people, and they sold it back to these people to run it, though, under their control.
Grow expensive food like gourmet pistachios and pomegranate juice. They converted the
Or they just killed them.
people's water into products many can't afford. And that's just one water bank. The Resnicks also have control of other water boards and have been sued for directing more water towards their properties.
Farm water.
So how do they get away with this Chinatown-level chicanery?
Chinatown-level chicanery. That's funny.
A lot of irate citizens when they find out that they're paying for water that they're not going to get.
With philanthropy.
Damn.
The Resnicks donate millions of dollars to politicians and research institutions, which help them secure control over water systems, and even get more water and more taxpayer funding. One important project is the proposed California Delta Tunnel, a taxpayer-funded project which would send water from Northern California to Central, where the Resnicks' farms are. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on state and federal legislation and politicians who support the tunnel project. But their favorite politician is Senator Dianne Feinstein.
You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway.
Chair of the Energy and Water Subcommittee. She's a close personal friend of the Resnicks, attending their holiday parties in Aspen and maintaining their financial interests. A quick look through the bills she sponsored shows several which would direct money to Kern-adjacent water projects.
Wow.
The Resnicks even ask her for things directly. When a pesky study
what did Dianne Feinstein do that was controversial? LGBT issues. Mayor Feinstein vetoed domestic partnership legislation in 1982. This legislation would have provided insurance benefits to cohabiting lovers of city employees. Wow, really? Feinstein introduced a bill to repeal the Defense of Marriage Act, the Respect for Marriage Act. So, that's crazy, actually.
About endangering salmon and shad fisheries threatened the Delta Tunnel. Stewart wrote a letter to Feinstein demanding a new study. She immediately forwarded it to the Obama administration, who agreed to spend $750,000
there they are, the Obama mamas.
On a new study. It returned the same results as the first one.
Obama
Can't
bin
buy
Laden.
science. But the Resnicks have tried. They are among the top donors to the University of California system, with their donations focusing on agricultural and ecological studies. The Resnicks have basically bought entire departments who put out studies on how water systems should be managed, and where funding should go. That leads to even more federal and state taxpayer dollars being used to fix up what the Resnicks profit off of. This is all bad for
How sick? How can you sleep at night? Really?
California, even in a capitalistic sense. Agriculture uses 80% of California's water, but only represents 2% of its GDP. The Resnicks' water monopoly is just one way their quest for wealth hurts the rest of us.
They
They allegedly lobby for
Yeah, they are. Fucking 100,000 thread sheets.
for increased tensions with Iran to keep embargoes on superior Iranian pistachios. Their giant crops lead to monocultures which kill important pollinators. They siphon taxpayer dollars into the company town charter schools they own, set up to train children to work for their farms.
Oh my
and of course,
God, dude, they have a whole demonic system going on, a slavery system. It's going on all around you. You have to, it's actually easy. Like, if you find a rich person or a politician that's doing exceptionally well, it's easy to actually track down what they're doing if you pay attention. But no one pays that much attention to any individual. Truthfully. Maybe the FBI or the CIA, but most of the time they're all working for them.
Of course, like any company of this size, they exploit their workers. We need to treat water for what it is, a necessary public resource, a human right, and something that shouldn't be owned by anyone, and work towards legislative change that stops people like the Resnicks from stealing it.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why if we were all in politics, if we were all active, if we actually said, hey, I'm going to make this a priority to give a shit about where I'm at and the quality of life for me and other people, the system wouldn't be like this. It boils down to us. It really, really does. And it could it could even help a handful of like healthy-minded individuals in each town to step up and make moves. The problem is you see a lot of people get very evil and corrupt. The older they get, the more money they get, and they lose their soul. They sell their soul to the game. So that's the problem.